One of the things that I hear the most from business owners and leaders that I work with is how do they get their team to work in an empowered way? So for those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Brandon Allen. I run a company called Newark Revolution. I called the company Newark Revolution because I have a crazy notion that people should enjoy the work environments that they participate in on a day-to-day basis. And so when we think about work, we spend most of our waking life at work. Whether we want to admit that or whether that's a sad or sobering thought for you, it's the truth. And the way that we can create great environments is through great leadership. And so my video series, any videos that I do, is really aimed at a leader and looking at how does a leader take ownership for their leadership in what they're supposed to be doing. And so as I talk about some of the things that we're going to go through, and I've got 9 specific things, in fact, that I want to touch on when it comes to creating empowered teams. These are all things that I've either done really well and learned, or and a lot of those have come from really sucking at the things that I'm going to talk about now and how I've learned not to suck at them and get better at them, right? I spent 10 years working in operations in finance. I was a COO of a financial services firm. And for the last 12 years, I've been coaching and training leaders, not only in corporations, but in the federal government, as well as small business, to really create empowered, engaged teams. And so I'm going to put the onus of responsibility on you as a leader in this first step, right? And all of these things are going to be your responsibility, but this is one that you really need to think about before we talk about any of the other steps. So the first thing in creating empowered teams is really to examine your beliefs as a leader around empowered teams and what's possible. So if you're the kind of leader who says, you can't find good help these days, no one cares like I do, if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself, I'm the only one that can do this, right? These are all things that over 12 years of coaching leaders, I've heard from leaders again and again and again. Here's the crazy thing about limiting beliefs and how our brain works. If you tell your brain a lie, it will believe it. It doesn't really know how to discern between a falsehood and a truth. And so when you say you've got to do it yourself, or no one can do it like me, or you can't find good help, your brain will look for those times where your team has probably let you down in the past, and that will dictate what's possible for you in the future. So what I want you to first examine as we talk about empowered teams is, where do you have a limiting belief around what's possible for having an empowered team that's engaged, that does the work without having to be micromanaged, that delivers projects on time, that communicates well and works well in a team environment? This is what we're talking about with empowered teams. What do you believe about that that's maybe contrary to what you really want? And part of this discussion is really determining for you, what is it that you really want from a team? What do you want in an empowered team? How is that going to look? And what limiting beliefs are holding you back from getting there? And where did those limiting beliefs come from? That's a great place to start, because if you don't clear that, if you don't get some understanding around really noticing when that comes up for you and why that comes up, the rest of the stuff that we're going to talk about in empowered teams isn't really going to work, because it's going to be tactics that you actually don't believe to be true. So your effort in actually employing those and utilizing those will be pretty meaningless, and they won't be long lasting. So I want you to start there, is to really examine, what are the limiting beliefs? What is my thought process around empowered teams? What does a great empowered team look like for me? And so as we go through the rest of this series, you can start to examine those things up against the things that we're talking about, and hopefully use those in a way that are long lasting and effective for your leadership as well as your team.